stars they wept, the morning sun was dead, the Savior of the world was fallen, his body on the cross, his blood poured out for us, the weight of every curse upon him. Final breath he gave, as heaven looked away, the Son of God was laid in darkness, a battle in the grave, the war on death was waged, the power of hell forever broken. The ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away, his perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified, forever he is lifted high, forever he is risen, he is alive, he is alive. The ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away, his perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified, forever he is lifted high, forever he is risen, he is alive, he is alive.
We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has overcome. We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has overcome. We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has overcome. We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah. Forever he is glorified, forever he is lifted high, forever he is risen, he is alive, he is alive.
Good evening, divine ones. Welcome. I love that song. That's a great song. Love setting the tone for the spirit. We're gonna have a great show tonight. It's gonna be a carry on from my show that I did on my chat on my Telegram channel from Monday night, where we're gonna be talking about things pertaining supernaturally, spiritual supernatural events that are happening here in our land, in our world, and so forth like that. We're going to talk about, the great date of September 24th, the Super Shemitah that is happening. Um, it's a really fascinating time in which we're all experiencing right now. We all signed up for it. We all made a covenant to come here during this very specific time to experience mortality in this very specific time, some of us more than others. But before we get going and I bring in my guest, I want to give a shout out to the moderators. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Shells. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Sam, for being here. Our moderators do an amazing job keeping us going. So I'm very grateful for your devotion and your volunteer work to sit here and be with us as well. Also, I want to give a shout out to individuals who tuned in. JEL, glad that you're here. Thank you very much. My Southern Lifestyle and friends, thank you for being here as well. Let's see here. D Hoops Forever, thank you for being here. Yves Poirier, thank you for being here. Ruxy Walsh, not sure what that means, but thank you for being here anyways. Karen K, thank you. Wanda McGibbony, thank you for being here. Saucy Joe, thank you for being here as well. Michelle Laudenbach, thank you for being here. Let's see here. All right. So tonight, I had a conversation, I had a call from Christo and the team yesterday. And it was really interesting because I had made a post on my main wall at the Sovereign Redneck Renegade Radio on Telegram. Dragon Slayer Grandma, thank you for being here as well. Wally B, thank you for being here, brother. It's kind of a running joke in my inner circle, those that are close to me. They know that I try to keep a very fair and balanced approach when I'm putting content on my channels. Because, those of us that remember in the good old days when the news was really the news and it wasn't biased and wasn't controlled by the Khazarian cabal, it was equal in what you got reporting. You could definitively make a choice and utilize that critical thinking within your brain. Now you can't. And so I try and have a fair and balanced approach to what I present. And it does drive some people, batshit crazy. Sorry to say that, but it does, because they can't figure, am I pro this or am I pro that? I'm an American. I'm a constitutional conservative. I call myself a recovering Republican, only because I used to be involved with the Republican Party heavily. I used to be part of the state's executive Republican committee, where we would vet candidates who wanted to run for U.S. congressional seats, U.S. senatorial seats, state, and so forth. And when I saw the apparatus of the Republican Party was just as bad as the Demon Rats Party, only difference was they were much better at concealing it. But they were doing the same shady stuff behind the scenes. That's when I knew I could not be affiliated with any particular political affiliation. I am a constitutional conservative first and foremost, and that's why I call myself a recovering Republican. That's kind of a funny moniker nonetheless. But I'm a truth teller. I am a warrior of light, providing information, and I try to talk about things that a lot of these other truthers don't or won't talk and touch about. And the reason why is they're one-dimensional in their approach. And that shows you where they're at in their intellect. That shows you where they're at in their discernment and in their understanding. It's really one-dimensional. All right. The things that we're going to discuss tonight, as I've talked about before, those that have followed me, when you start going down the path of prophecy, supernatural, esoteric knowledge, you have to start learning how to understand things in a multi-dimensional facet rather than a linear way of thinking and approaching these subject matters, right? That's how we find out the mysteries of God. That's how we find out the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, the heavenly realm, the angelic realm, the Christos, and everything else like that. We have to approach these things in such a matter with our spiritual eyes and our spiritual minds, right? So when Christos called me yesterday and questioned me about this individual that I put on my main wall, it's because he was connected to an ascended master for over 3 decades. And he's going to talk to you guys tonight about that. You know, I consider Christos, I consider Ananda, and I consider Jason part of my family. I believe that they are divine beings. I believe they are star seeds, if you will. And I believe they have a certain keen insight into, things that are supernatural in a spiritual matter. And so that's why we're going to talk about these things tonight, because we are living in these days that we're in right now and moving forward. We have to have a better understanding of the workings of the heavenly realm and how it's involved in our daily lives, right? We have to put on the full armor of God to be able to understand these things and combat these things too. So anyways, let's do this. We'll bring in Christo. Grand and glorious evening, brother.
How are
How are
you?
you?
How are you doing, ML?
Good.
Doing good?
And then we'll bring in, yes. And let's bring in Jay.
Hey, ML. Good to see you.
Oh, how are you, brother? Same here. All right. I better get rid of this banner here because it's not blocking our
Top of your
view.
head. There you go.
There we go.
Hey, much better.
All right. That's much better. Yes. So I'm laying the foundation about our conversation yesterday. And, it's really fascinating because I've had a lot of people, and I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of people contact me, share personal situations with me where they really feel they're at their wits' end right now. They are starting to experience these negative emotions that's not normally part of them, such as anger, which is, from frustration and fear. Fear and frustration feeds anger, right? And so people are starting to experience more negative emotions than they're used to, and it's really starting to affect their mindset, how their overall look is happening in our world right now. As bleak as some things may appear, there is a reasoning for why we are going through the things that we're going through and how we come through these things itself. So I wanted to, talk about some of the information you shared with me yesterday, Christo. And then I also want to talk about, did you guys have a chance to listen to the chat that I did from Monday night on the Super Shemitah, the seventh seal, and the tribulations?
Yes. And it was just amazing. Thank you so much for putting that up there. Jay, what did you feel about it?
Oh, yeah, you brought in some wonderful information there. I just want to expound on it about Yom Kippur and the Star of David. And
Jay, before you do that,
all
though,
that stuff.
it's a little lengthy. And before you do that, I just want to bring out one thing that just drives me up a wall. And I'm sure you have the same feeling. All of the representatives, associates, senators, people all over the place, they always say, and our government is doing this, and our government is doing that. Well, we need to stop saying that it's our government, because it is no longer our government. It's a corporation, a foreign corporation here to destroy our government, here to destroy our republic. So if you want to do all of us a favor, start stating that, wait a minute, this is a corporation. When we do work with clients and even some of our own stuff, when we bring that out, hey, wait a minute, court, you are a corporation for profit. If you're a corporation, you can't be a government. You can't be our government. Are you posing as our government? I believe that's fraud. We don't hear from him again. Case dismissed because it's the truth. And so we got to start stating that. And maybe our reps, the good guys, Jordan and Gates and whoever else up there, will start calling it what it is, a corporation, so that people realize what's going on. So that's just one thing I wanted to bring out. That is, so yeah, this foreign corporation, right? As a matter of fact, if you guys want to look up White House Inc., and you will see that that's the corporation, and you can find it on Duns and Bradstreet. And for anybody that doesn't know what Duns and Bradstreet is, of course, it's where all corporations have to list their existence on that. And if you don't, it's some sort of fine. But so you got to do it, and they all do it. You will see whatever state you live in, whatever county you live in, Duns and Bradstreet, you'll find it on there. All right, so there it is. Thank you for giving me space.
Also 28 US code, 28 USC 3002, as used in this chapter. I'm reading it straight from there. Subsection 15, United States means a federal corporation. I mean, you can just go look it up yourself, guys. And then and the Constitution of the United States of America from and it was down in 1871. Congress formed the corporation known as the United States. Right there, 1871. The corporation known as the United States. So the act, the Foreign Corporation in 1871, the Act of 1871. It's all there for everybody to go research on their own.
That's it.
Because all we are is here for your entertainment, educational purposes only.
Yeah, that's, well, here's the argument though, right? In the Patriot community, we're told, well, wait a second. The corporation was signed into bankruptcy on, was it February of March of 2021 in Tallahassee, Florida. And here you have a bankruptcy with the signature of Donald John Trump on it and stuff like that. So we're told that, the corporation's been bankrupt is what we're told. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, here's the deal. Anytime, even in business, you create a corporation and it gets sued or this or that or goes bankrupt, they just close it down. They, and they start another corporation with a little change on the labeling, like instead of White House Inc.
There it is.
You see, and so they just change it. They do it all the time. And when the heat gets on, major players like directors or CEOs of certain corporations that is in treason to the American people, like the CDC, well, Rochelle Walensky, the past director, quits, resigns, because she was getting so much heat and people were starting to sue the CDC. And so it just happens all the time. So that's what I say to that. How do you feel about that answer?
Well, see this is the dichotomy here, though, is the fact that a good portion of the collective consciousness in the Patriot community believe that President Trump dissolved the corporation, filed the bankruptcy, and so we're now under the restored republic. And I'm like thinking, I haven't seen a lot of semblance of that as of yet. I haven't seen a lot of indicators that actually validates that quite yet, considering everything that we're all going through right now as a collective. I'm not quite seeing those indicators yet, so I might be missing something.
No,
there's the law of assumption. Okay, the law of assumption is that which is agreed upon and not rebutted stands as true. So even if the United States corporation is bankrupt, as pursuant to Donald J. Trump's executive order, there's a guy acting as president who's destroying the country under some sort of guise. So I would say to the Patriots, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but what's Trump doing? And where is the Republic? And where's the military as pursuant to the Republic to stop the infiltration of this foreign entity called the United States Inc. or the White House Inc. or whatever new corporation they're acting as, which is keeping people through the law of assumption as citizens, 14th Amendment citizens, and are currently destroying and invading a foreign land called Ukraine, and having military personnel under the guise of the corporation go and risk their lives and murder people. So, and destroy what is known as the nation of United States. It's still acting under the assumption. So I'm not saying that the patriots are wrong, but I'm saying, okay, well, where's the Republic coming in to stop the infiltration of this guy named Joe Crime Family Biden, who's literally doing things that are destroying people's lives under some sort of facade of a corporation or country.
Yeah. Jay, I think we should get into, because we had a lot to cover. So I think we should get into your what you're going to talk about that ML mentioned. And I just want to say a little bit of a teaser that I'm going to be talking about, like ML said, my relationship with that ascended master in the body, in addition to all the science fiction experiences I've had and continue to have, and various tools that you can take home with you that are so powerful. And the two in particular, avoiding the pain yet to come, where you can change destiny by doing certain things, and changing the outside from within. Powerful tools that we'll discuss later in the show. Thank you. Jay, what did you bring to the table tonight?
A glass of water. Everybody must stay hydrated.
Everybody's
I brought that to the table. I brought my
that's right.
I brought my locket here, my dog tag that in Hebrew, I don't know if you won't be able to see it, but it's a flame, it's fire, as well as within that fire it says Yisrael.
Doesn't that say let's eat?
It does say that too. Just know anything in Judaism, we always say just let's eat. Cross that bridge when we get to it, and let's eat. That's all we say.
Well,
look at my hat, ML. Look at my hat.
Tonight it would be appropriate because we're going to be talking about the 7 trumpets. So, you know, the trumpets are shofars, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm going to blow the shofar tonight because we are in the feast, the time of the feast. So it's only appropriate to acknowledge that. So,
and I'll bring.
That's awesome.
That was very well done.
I love that so much.
You know, yeah, and that reminds me of one of our members of Americans in Action, Clark. He's an expert, amazing didgeridoo player. And one show I'd like to bring him on, and you'll hear the didgeridoo and how healing that is. And he goes on with that automatic breath for hours. I mean, he's amazing. We've done many retreats with that, and so many healings take place. Didgeridoo, and I loved what you just did. Man, awesome. Okay.
That's well done.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Jay, what did you?
So let's talk a little bit about. Yeah, Jay, let's talk. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I got the Chumash right here, 5 books of Moses. Now, I will say this, that Yom Kippur, from my experience, the purity of it is to revert back to your own self-forgiveness. But the religion, the indoctrination of the religion with Yom Kippur, it's teaching people to be addicted to a God outside the self. And when you are praying in the temple and asking God for forgiveness, what you are really doing, is you are collectively in a collective consciousness through prayer, through chant, and through affirmations, because you're saying a lot of prayers. God, forgive me for the sin that I have committed. God, forgive me for the sin that I have committed. These are literally the language that you're using when you are what's called davening in the synagogue, and you're doing it with a collective consciousness, and you're creating a mantra. So what you're doing as a collective and then on an individual basis is that you're affirming to the self that you are a sinner. And as a result of that, there's a conditioning that's happening as a collective that's saying that God is not unconditional love. God is a God of conditional love and judgment. And as a result of that, it keeps people in the confinement of a religion called Judaism, like an addiction, that the only way out to free themselves is to have God free them through some sort of forgiveness. And when you are actually doing the prayers, they even use physical body to implement onto your physical body what you would call an implant into the brain. And you take your fist, and when you're praying, or what they call davening, you're banging on your heart. You're doing those things. And as you're doing those things, you're also implanting conditions and commands into your subconscious that you're a sinner, and the only way out of that is to have God save you, and that he won't forgive you unless you fast or destroy yourself or harm yourself. Now, there's nothing wrong with realizing that we are imperfect beings having a journey, and that we are discovering. But the purity of Judaism in Kabbalistic times is more about realizing that you are your own healer, you are your own savior, and it's this spirituality of that where you go through, not to have something outside yourself, a rabbi or God, to approve of you or disapprove of you. Okay. And when you're in the Yom Kippur, it's very degrading to the soul. And people are walking around in a way of I'm so wrong, and I'm so this, and I'm a sinner. And that keeps people locked into a religion. It's almost like a drug, a pharmaceutical drug that makes you come back to stay addicted. So it's an entrapment in that way. Also, on that note, you talked about the Khazarian mafia infiltrating the Torah and converting it into the Talmud. Well, why did they choose Judaism? They chose Judaism because at the time when the Khazarians were presented by the Russians to say, listen, what you guys are doing, child sacrifices and all this stuff, it needs to stop. You need to choose a religion.
King of Russia.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have three choices. The three choices you have is Judaism, Christianity, or Muslim or Islam. Well, if you know, Christianity is a derivative of Judaism, and Islam is a derivative of Judaism. But Judaism back at the time in the Hebrews, in the ancient Kabbalistic mysticism of Hebrews before Judaism, it was energy work, it was consciousness, it was spirituality, and they were using energy with an intention for life. That's why we say l'chaim, to life. The purity is there. But the Khazarians said, well, let's just go to the original, because there's this thing called black magic, Kabbalistic work, in which we can use with a nefarious intention behind it to manipulate the masses, and still under the guise of Judaism, we'll do our child sacrifices and all this other stuff that they were doing. But now they were going back to the original source, which was the Torah, and they just converted it like a mirror and put it into the Talmud, which is very different. They're two very different texts, but they are, don't get you wrong, they are spell casting, chanting, and collectively doing it and davening. And a minyan is 10 men specifically davening together to have a collective consciousness for a collective intention to create an outcome. Okay. And when you go to pray in Judaism, they say, bring a daven, bring a minyan, get 10 men, get 10 men. Well, that's numerology. That's gematria, and that's using ancient spirituality to create mysticism happening in the physical. So the Babylonian Empire knew about that. That's why they chose Judaism, and then they infiltrated it. Okay. Now, you also talked about the Star of David the other night. And the Star of David, I agree. Yes, I agree. It was also infiltrated. However, in the purity of Judaism, the Star of David is also a symbol, okay, of what's called the Merkabah. The Merkabah looks like the Star of David, but it has multiple dimensions on it, and you can actually see it with the pyramids. And it's actually an energetic chakra system inside of you, And it's also trust law, because if you see it in the New Testament, you'll talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's three. That's a Trinity. However, that's only half the story. There's also the Mother, the Daughter, and the Holy Spirit, the female version of it. It goes from the patriarchal society, right, the four fathers, back to the four mothers, our original mothers. When they come together, the masculine and the feminine come together. Now you have the masculine triangle coming together with the feminine triangle, creating the Merkabah, which is wholeness, which is trust language, to be made whole. And the highest law is trust law. The highest jurisdiction is trust law, which is equity, which is the air jurisdiction, which is God's law. So you become whole when you balance your Merkabah, which is the source of energy. And when you look at the Egyptian pyramids, you're only seeing half of the pyramids. Underneath, there's the female triangle. And then you'll see the Trinity. So the Merkabah actually spins, creates a higher frequency, and you transcend into a higher consciousness. So the purity of Judaism talks about in the Kabbalistic mysticism, of which they keep and withhold from the people. And then once you start going into more of the mysticism of it, you start tapping into it. And that's what the Jewish star also represents. So there's a lot of different things that are going on in regards to the Judaic and the pure Judaic religion. And then the Sabbath, meaning at the end of days, they talk about the Sabbath being the only thing that exists. And when you walk through the deserts of Jerusalem and Judaism, you'll talk to very, very high level conscious rabbis, and they'll say at the end of the day, there will be no religion, including Judaism. There will only be the Sabbath, where everybody is welcome and celebrating the Jubilee in honor of what? The Shekinah. And the Shekinah is the divine feminine, the presence. And before you start Shabbos, you're supposed to sing Lecha Dodi, and Lecha Dodi is bringing in the feminine energy, which is God conscious energy, which in the New Testament is Mother Mary. And so when you bring it together, you cannot move forward without the matriarchs. So the Merkabah and the Star David is symbolic of that. And the masculine and the feminine coming whole, which is trust language, to be made whole. And now you're in the highest jurisdiction of God consciousness, which is one love. And that's why there's no religion. It's only the Shabbos, and you're celebrating the Jubilee. And so I just wanted to bring some of that out to add to what you said and to build on what Yom Kippur truly is. And you're forgiving yourself, and you can break away from an organized religion and take the purity of the mysticism and the wisdom of that, and then make it your own. And then we can consciously create that new earth and celebrate the Jubilee or the Shabbos or the Sabbath and the Shekinah presence.
Love that. That's yep. I mean, that is spot on. You know, I often share bits and pieces of the experiences that I've had with the Archangel Raphael. You know, I'd had several experiences that were, I believe, I was being tutored or schooled, so to speak. And then I had my experience with a Christed being in 2012. And I'm not sure how long I was in the presence of this Christed being, but it was long enough to get a lot of downloads of information that was shown and blessed me with. One of the greatest things that was provided to me was this absolute knowledge that, you know, growing up in a Christian community for most of my life, at that point in time, I was very much in that box of the Christianity itself. To be shown otherwise by the Christed being of none of the world's religions were created by the Christed beings that came to the planet. None of them were created by God's source, you know, and there won't be any. And then the concepts and the doctrines and the dogmas that had been cram down my throat and your throat and everybody's throat that prescribe to one of the main religions of the world as well were not correct at all. Those were all man-made doctrines. You know, this is where we have that term, the philosophies of men that are being mingled with scripture, right? Because that's what they do, is they mingle their philosophies with scripture, and they try and make scripture fit their philosophy itself. And so to have that view was so amazing. And that's what was the most transcending. Obviously, it would be the most transcending experience a human being would have, to have an experience with an ascended master, a Christed being like Christos. You being under the tutelage of a ascended master, you would continue transcending opportunities, right? And so to have certain absolute knowledge is very compelling. And, you know, and you can only share so much, because a lot of the people are not ready for all of that, you know, because there's a lot there. So you just got to give them a little at a time, and a little at a time, and a little at a time, right? And
Yeah.
so this understanding of our religions that we're talking about, and, you know, a lot of our community are sitting on pins and needles right now, because they believe we're at the end of days. And they believe, in their mind, the end of days means we're in the tribulation periods. All the bad stuff's now going to happen to us. And once the bad stuff's done, then the kingdom of heaven's going to come raining on earth, and then Jesus is going to return here, and all these things like that, and reign here for us for 1,000 years, when in fact, it's not even in the Bible. That's the problem, is a lot of these prophetic events that are supposed to happen, they're not even in the Bible anywhere, guys. Those are the philosophies of men that have been educated at religious schools to preach to you. You know, that's why it's called scriptures, because they're reading scripts to you. You know,
And they're
I had an
reading
interesting conversation with. What's that, Christo?
Oh yeah, I was agreeing with you. They're reading his story.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
right. That's right. I was having an exchange with this gentleman. His name is he goes by Brother Nathan, and he's on Telegram, and he posts up on a daily basis. And he believes he is a prophetic individual. And I wouldn't argue with that. He has some really keen insight, that's for sure. And he was shocked to find out just a few days ago that you know, the picture that we've all grown up with about Jesus, who the actual portrait was of Jesus that we all grew up with, and he was shocked to understand that that was the son of one of the popes, Pope Pius, and that this was a guy was a homosexual in the first place, and he wanted to be used as the model for Jesus. So everybody, you know, it really like rocked his world. And I said, well, here's a better one for you, brother. Who owns the copyright to the Bible? And he said, well, what do you mean? Who owns the copyright to the Bible? I'm like, well, look at it. It's got a copyright on it. It's the crown. And he's like, the crown? I'm like, yeah, like Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth that just died. Now it's Queen Chuck or Queen Chuck. Probably Queen Chuck. It's Queen
Probably.
Chuck who owns the copyright now. But that really took him. I was like, you mean there's a copyright on God's word? And I'm like, well, that should show you right there. It's not from God that way. So, you know, but these are the things that help people to wake up a little bit, to understand that we have been given so much disinformation, and it's not entirely the fault of the people who've been leading us in our congregations. They're only regurgitating what they were taught, you know, and they're doing the best they can. It's when you start
Right.
asking questions that they don't like, and they get uncomfortable. And so, you know, then you become this pariah, you know, in your congregation, because you start realizing there's a difference between religiosity and spirituality. I mean, a magnificent divide between religiosity and
Huge.
spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's for sure.
And
And
so it makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
so, in regards to what you're saying, it's absolutely on the money, 100%. And I'd like to bring out just a few things so that people really have a grasp on that the Bible, the King James Bible, has been doctored and edited and taken out to secretly and very discreetly make you feel less than. Because when you feel less than, there's no enlightenment in store for that individual. And so there's clues with this, and the research that we have done, and then studying with this ascended master, which was and is so outrageous, it defies logic and defies the mind because it's beyond the mind. That's where you find the truth. So things like the story of Moses. And Moses goes to the mountain and the burning bush, and supposedly God is there and gives him the 10 commandments. They didn't tell you which God was there. It could be God, Jehovah, meaning Satan, giving you rules and regulations that you will not be able to live up to. And when you break them, you feel inside that you have failed and that you're not good enough and God doesn't love you. And that's all BS. It was Satan that he went up there. So that's just one thing. Another thing that they changed in the Bible, several things, and little pronouns and this and this. And I might have mentioned this before, but it's so powerful. They say most of the Christian churches and pastors, they regurgitate and don't really live it. And I'll explain why in a minute. Is that they say that Jesus said, I am the way. Now, what does that do? That takes you outside yourself, outside of your kingdom of heaven, and look elsewhere in the Maya, in the illusion, for your salvation. Jesus is going, oh my God, what did they do? Believe me, I've had Jesus come inside me many times in healings, and he's like, oh my God. He said, I am is the way. They took out the little preposition verb is. And look at the difference of the change. Because I am, when you meditate to transcend the thinking mind and enter truly into the kingdom of heaven, the I am is the highest vibration mantra one can use. So I use it often every day. Health I am, beauty I am, abundance I am, love I am. So the I am is expressing to the universes that you exist as life. And the only existence of true life is when it's 100% love. Love is life. And so just two examples, and there's many, many more. I'm so happy that you brought out copyright, the crown. Exactly. Did you know also that the queen that just died and the other guy that's in there posing as the king, these two are Khazarian mafia individuals that they had help with other Khazarian mafias, but they killed the original royalty who was the true king and queen, very loving, very for all the people, as it should be, as royalty should be. They killed them and they took over. They're imposters, total imposters. There's no love there. As a matter of fact, you see videos and everything of young kids, 12 years old, escaping from their estate there, and they're pedophiles. Prince William, or whatever his name is, a definite pedophile because the DOJ here is corrupted. He didn't put him in jail for his entire life. There's so much going on, but it's all coming out. So this is beautiful because in the days to come, we're going to have a great time and great things are in store for us. And they're not far away. So we got great things going on.
Well, here's something. All right. So let me ask your two opinion on this. So for 3 years almost that I've been doing this influencer thing, whatever you call it, I have never jumped on the bandwagon of Linwood in the sense that I was never in his camp. I would always talk and bring and present things about Linwood that people should, go, well, wait a second. Something's not adding up here. Something's not adding up there. But a lot of people gave him the pass because they believed that he was a true white hat and that he was, in there with Trump. But now he's actually turning state's evidence against Trump in the Georgia case. He is now going to be testifying against Trump in the Georgia case.
Oh,
what I find ironic is General Michael Flynn and his brother Joseph, they've been going back and forth, bashing each other. The Flynn brothers have been bashing, Linwood, and back and forth for the better part of 2 years. But they're equally the same. They're both equally corrupt, in my opinion. And for the better part of 3 years, people would say, ML, how could you say those things about Linwood? He's a God-fearing man. He's the best Christian out there, and he's doing his part to establish the restoration of our republic. He's working with the white hats and Trump and Q and everything else like that. How dare you do that? Really? And now the guy is turning state's evidence to be witness number one against President Trump in Georgia. So now what say all of you patriots out there that were kicking me in my nuts for the last 3 years over me bringing this to the public's eyes?
Yep.
I used to do events and put them together and speak at some of them. And we brought in General Flynn at one time at a particular church in California. And that answered all my questions. I won't go into details. Yeah. But there was no pertinent information that was of truth there that came out in everything. And of course, every time he talks, he makes $80,000 to $120,000. Clay Clark, I believe, pays him $80,000 or $90,000 a visit there. And Clay Clark still has that captured American war flag, the military flag with the gold fringe around it, on his stage.
Oh.
Now,
Yep.
Clay Clark is a wise guy. He's a smart dude. You think that is
He knows his
overlooked?
audience. Yep.
Huh?
He knows his audience. He knows who he's marketing to.
There you go. Yeah, and how to stay doing it without any backflash, if you know what I mean.
The indoctrination has
Yes,
gone. The indoctrination has gone so far to make people so asleep that they don't even stop at the obvious. So you can pull up any book. I happen to have a book right here. Okay. And there's an author on the bottom of it. Okay. Here's another book, Landmark Supreme Court Cases. There's an author on the bottom of it. I could pull up a King James Bible. Who's the author of it? Well, that would be King James. They tell you right on the cover of the book, but people don't stop and look at that. The other thing about the Mosaic 10 Commandments, how they're, like Christo was saying, they're impossible to uphold. So it's an entrapment to keep people in control. Well, statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are derivative of the King James Western Bible, as well as the indoctrinated or infiltrated, I should say, 5 books of Moses. Okay. But people don't stop and look at the obvious. Millions of statute codes and rules and regulations that are impossible to uphold. For example, if you're only allowed to drive 55 miles per hour and the maximum amount of miles per hour across the nation, I think, is like 85, 90 miles per hour, and that's in America, then why would American car companies create cars that go 125 miles per hour? Doesn't that make an entrapment? Aren't they violating code, rules, laws, and ordinances? Why don't you talk to the car dealership and say, hey, car dealership, I can't buy this Ford Mustang because it's illegal for me to drive it. You've just made an illegal motor. And yet through marketing, they tell you, drive this Mustang or drive this Porsche or drive this Audi or drive whatever car, drive a muscle car and go faster than 55 miles per hour. And yet the law is, or the statute is 55 miles per hour. Isn't that entrapment? Wouldn't that only benefit the corporation? So they use psychology and manipulation and all sorts of things to use marketing to buy the next biggest thing. But those next biggest things in actual fact are contrary to the rules that they're putting out so they can entrap you. It's the same thing with the pandemic that they had. Don't put on a mask. Put on a mask, but don't worry. This virus is not going to get you if you're eating. So take off the mask. So I was told people, don't worry, I don't have to wear a mask. I've told the virus I'm eating. So it leaves me alone.
It's highly intelligent. Yes.
Just look at the obvious stuff that they're putting out and just start there.
But the obvious stuff that they're putting out also has in it black magic.
That's right.
Every single thing that they put out has black magic. Now, what's black magic? Now, a lot of people, it curls their back hairs or whatever when I say this, but we're dealing with our creating energy, our creator energy, our beautiful energy of love. And that energy has no loyalty to the right or wrong, the good or bad, the beautiful or ugly. It's what you do with your life that determines that. You can use that energy, that God energy, for dark things. That's black magic. Mm-hmm. You can use that energy, God creating energy that you are, for good things. That's white. That's for the good. That's for life. The other's for enslavement. So you got to realize it's sort of like a gun, really. The guns aren't bad. It's what you do with it. You know, you go shooting and you make your dinner, or you go and kill people. And so you see, it's all in the free will thing. And they realize that, and the black magic comes in like they do with everything. They give you a little bit of truth, and then they put in there underneath and twining around the dark that's going to confuse you, and it's going to lead you into here and out of here. Here's something. Third dimension, planet Earth, where everything is separate. You're over there, I'm over here. The cup is there, I'm here. Your lover's over there, you're here. Separate. Our definition of pain is separateness. So this third dimension, while you remain focused on your human life, the outside life, there is no comfort. There is no absolute blissful joy. It only exists in the God energy that you are and inside of you. So this is where all your power is, the power of love. Do you know, for you to really have an experience of God, for you to have really an experience of true love, your heart has to be open. And there are a lot of people that have their heart closed, even though socially they're very sweet, very nice, but their heart is closed and they do not resonate to the highest truth. And that highest truth, of course, is love, God's love, self-love. This is where the miracles can happen. So this third dimension is actually a projection from inside of you to the outside. Everything on the outside that you bring into your audience, the forest, the trees, the cars, people, this is all representative of inside of you. Now just consider that for a moment. Consider the possibility. This is stuff that they don't want you to know. Because this, when you get the complete package, empowers you that you actually move into your sainthood. You really do. And so don't forget, this ascended master is beyond anything here on earth. He was here on earth for 17 lifetimes. And his last lifetime, he was a leper. And that's the lifetime that he went back into being an overlord. You know, you have your human consciousness, and then your Christ consciousness, and then your Lord God consciousness, and then your Father, Mother consciousness. These are all consciousnesses coming back to ourselves as we were meant to be on this planet. We are in a very abnormal, unnatural state of awareness.
Mhm.
Don't ever think, I mean, you do what you want, but when I say don't ever think, it's not a good idea to think that you hit the summit, that you're like fully enlightened, because God has no ceiling and you'll just be
That's right.
stopping yourself. So you're always a student. Always. I am a student all the time. And anything that comes forth is just from a channeling. It bypasses the thinking mind and it's channeled, which a lot of us do. And a lot of people in the audience do. I know they do. And so with this, you have to realize that everything you know is a lie. Hold off. Don't get too excited. Everything you know is a lie, because the only truth there is in the moment of now. You know, they call the moment of now present time. They misnamed it because it's the only place that time doesn't exist. So they should have called present time no time. Now that makes sense. No time. And that's where the truth is. The truth aren't in any of our words. That's dense. It's in the spaces between the words. That's why you have to feel as people are talking and you're receiving, feel what's coming up in you, and that will present the rest of the story. That will present exactly what you need to rediscover and remember yourself. Put yourself back together, whole. And so you want to, you know, when your heart is open, 4 sacraments download into your being. And those 4 sacraments are great gratitude, humility, compassion, and forgiveness. You can never decide to forgive. Why? Because decision is from the mind and the energy of forgiveness is from the heart. So they're 2 different jurisdictions and they don't support each other. As a matter of fact, when you are thinking, it's impossible to feel. A lot of people say, I start to work with them and they go, okay, so feel this energy. And they start thinking because they're so used to going to the altered ego thinking mind. Even Edison said, I think it was Edison or Einstein, but I think it was Edison that said, I come up with my most outrageous, wonderful inventions when I'm not thinking. What does that tell you? Your genius is in the energy. The kingdom of heaven is all energy. And so it's really important to realize that a closed heart is something you can feel. Have you ever around a person that may be nice or whatever socially, but there's no energy there. The energy is not flowing. 2-hearted people, 2 people that have their hearts open, they come together, they want to hug, they want to do stuff, enthusiasm, it's life. They're connecting. And connecting is the highest experience of God, because the highest of God is we are one. And that's how you heal yourself from being in denser emotions, they're actually illusions. They're part of 3rd dimension. 4th dimension and up doesn't have fear, anger, hatred, betrayals, apprehension. It doesn't have any of that. It just has love. And love is what we are. That's the essence. So we're so used to having a body, we think we are the body. Even though you say I'm not the body, you still think you're the body. You kind of lie to yourself, because it's a good thing to do. I mean, good thing to say that you're not the body, but you still operate as if you're the body. And you got to start having more experience in the energetic spirit world. Because being in the kingdom of heaven, being and living your life with not having any thought is so powerful. It's the only thing that can delete black magic. We have to even the plane. It's time, folks. It's time for you to take definite steps of your enlightenment. My feeling is, and with my studies with the ancient shaman, my studies as Ascended Master, enlightenment really is you coming back to yourself, and you come together with yourself and you coexist with you. What does that do? Well, if this is you, the being, and this is you, the altered self, as you're deleting denser feelings that you housed in your soul because you hated the feeling of them, you don't want anything to do with them, you're bringing them up now and you're feeling them to fruition, and you're coming closer and closer because we have abandoned ourselves a long time ago. And as you become closer and closer, you become more enlightened. And when you come together and you start to coexist with yourself, you become what? One. One is the truth, not two. Two is a duality. You're split. We are all split. As a matter of fact, that really started to take place on this planet because it wasn't always that way. In the very beginning, it was heaven on earth. The days of Lemuria and Atlantis, the beginnings of Atlantis before they got corrupted. Biden came into Atlantis and corrupted it. Yeah, that's life, He's been on that whole, he's just dark, dark, dark. Atlantis put together, when they started to go technology and out of the realm of nature, they put together an implant that when anybody was born, they would be implanted with this altered self so that they would be split in two. If you split somebody in two, they're not in their full love, their full power. They have abandoned themselves. You see? And so they did that so that they could control the people, so that they could take all their money. That same old thing. This is not a new story, what they're doing here. They've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years on this planet and others.
Yep.
Here's a little tidbit. Did you know that there were approximately 18 different universes, 17 different galaxies? God is so big, it defies the thinking mind. You can't even think about it. It's so crazy. And there's all kinds of entities. Now, with this energy that I'm talking about, what's going to happen is you're going to leave your duality, which you want to do because that's painful. Be separate from yourself. Painful. Just like being separate from a lover. And so you're going to leave this duality and have the one back home again. And you open into all of God in all those universes and all those galaxies. I mean, everything. And you return to what is known as the Christ conscious state. And some even go Christ conscious and real quick go to the Lord conscious, the Lord God of your being, a Lord consciousness. Powerful, loving.
It is. This
Super
is the concept that was taught to me, and this is exactly what you're saying. When the Christ taught me, it's called the law of eternal progression, and it means that we sign these contracts when our souls are conceived. We enter into these agreements of, I would like to experience mortality X amount of times, and every time I experience mortality, I would like to experience this, and this. Depending on what we choose to experience, it's called line upon line, precept upon precept. Our glory is added upon our glory. And choosing, depending on what we choose to go through and experience, to add upon ourselves, our knowledge, our wisdom, tends to help us progress in our eternal progression, which is what you're talking about. You are progressing from this consciousness to this consciousness to this consciousness to this consciousness. It's
That's right.
infinite.
That's right. And
That's
it's
why we're
returning
eternal
to that.
beings.
That's right. Returning to that consciousness. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. People need to remember that if your heart is open, you cannot be hypnotized.
Mhm.
If your heart is
Fact.
closed, you are all mind, and it can be manipulated in 3 seconds.
That's right.
That's fact.
That's right. That's right.
So how do you know if your heart is open or not? Because most people, if their heart is closed, they don't know that it's closed. And the reason they
Right.
don't know is it's been that way all their life. So they have nothing to feel what an open heart is. So people that have closed heart can't experience true intimacy, true love. And listen, that doesn't make you a bad person. No, 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 no. This is just something that this planet is involved in. And even the way mom raises you is important to either opening your heart or closing your heart. And so we have to realize that it is a predicament from all of humanity. And we have to realize that everything that we see and hear from the corporations are all there to control you, to shut you down, to make you less than, so you can be controlled. But being in the kingdom of heaven, guess what? A person that is in a transcendent state where they are living their life, being at one with all that comes in their audience, and doesn't use the thinking mind as everyday affair, you start to disappear. Your biological meat body starts to transform into a light body. What happens when a spoke and a wheel, bicycle is a good example, and it goes really fast? Do you see that spoke? No, it disappears because it's sped up. So the energy in your body, when you start to deal with your energies, your emotions, energy and motion, if you're not dealing with them, they stay stuck in your body, in your soul, in various parts of your body. And of course, if it stays stuck for long enough, that's how disease happens.
Mhm.
Because it's stuck, it's dead. Death is no movement, no randomity. True life is plus randomity, enthusiasm, a lot of action, a lot of movement. And so when you pay attention to your breath, which is essential, pranayama, you start to invigorate the inside energies. Emotions start to come up that you didn't even know were there. You now have the wisdom to allow yourself to become one with that emotion, and anything that is not love melts away instantaneously, and nothing is there. And then you're filled with divine love. And that love is a consciousness, God consciousness, that you expand what you know. You expand what you experience, and you start to become one with everything around you. And one day soon, you'll be standing in front of a tree, and you're inside the tree, and you feel the sap as your blood moving through your entire body, and your leaves on all of your branches, and the wind comes and blows the leaves, your leaves, and it's orgasmic. And you're so excited at being a tree. And this you can experience with everything that comes before you.
Correct.
Do you know
Correct.
that in an enlightened state, you're not thinking anymore, unless you need to think because you're 2 and 2 equals 4 to pay somebody. So, but most of the time you're not thinking. Do you know, in that consciousness, you're so in no time, time being the greatest illusion on this planet, because time doesn't exist in fourth and above. There is no time. It's an illusion. So in that, there is no time. There is no thought. And yet you operate and you resonate to the highest love. Who has great love that maybe is not on the planet all the time? Our various alien friends, super love if they're super conscious. Not all of them. Some are a little mischievous and some want to enslave, but the one like guys like the Blue Avarians, I mean, there's so many worlds that open up to you when you leave the captivity of thinking, of the altered ego, of all the emotions from experiences you had this lifetime and others that you carried with you into another lifetime, this lifetime, and that they're just waiting for you to pay attention to them and to love them. Love being the highest form of love is allowance. So to allow the emotions and no longer separate, no longer not paying attention, like rejection. Anybody like to be rejected? No. So what's your initial thing? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about being rejected. It's just too painful. Guess what, folks? There's not one emotion on planet Earth that anybody could experience that is painful. Did you hear what I just said? There's not one emotion on planet Earth that's painful. Oh, Christo, come on. My cat just died. I had it for like 13 years. And God, I was in so much pain when she passed the body. I want to guarantee you the emotion that came up when your beloved cat passed was not painful. You know what produced the pain? Resistance. Resistance of what is. That is what the pain is. Any emotion that comes up, no matter what it is, if you fully allow it, your heart is open, fully allow it, the resistance, the pain, the separation, but you're starting to talk to it, bring it to you. As soon as you coexist with it, no pain, no pain. Even with the intellectual understanding that resistance is the pain and not the emotion, you can start looking at yourself, your last day or 2 or 3 or 4, and review that and go, oh, wow, let me look at that emotion there, that it's not painful, but my resistance to becoming one with it is the pain. That can change your life so dramatically. That's when you start to go, and I can give you further tools of avoiding the pain yet to come and changing the outside world from within. If I may, Mel, I'll just go through those just for a second.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So changing the outside from within, the outside world. So let's say your outside world is full of pain. Let's say the outside world is somebody's just being ornery with you and won't give you your money back, or whatever the incident is, doesn't matter what it is. This is you asking yourself, what is the emotion that I am having come up from my soul? And I'm not paying attention to it because I'm too busy blaming him. Forget blame. It's just a waste of energy. Blame and guilt, get rid of it. It doesn't serve you. So what is that feeling of him just refusing to pay me back? What is it? And get in contact with the feeling or feelings. I guarantee you feel those feelings all the way to fruition, where you're transcending. Joe will come around and say, you know what? I just had a check come in. Here's your money. Miracles are produced. You're changing the outside world from within.
That's right.
Put yourself on an experiential tonight and do that. See how that can work. If you're thinking, it won't work. So if you're thinking, focus on the breath, the pranayamic breath that goes up in front of the spine, all the way down through the perineum, hold it in the ground about 10 feet, bring it back up through the perineum, all the way up and out the heart chakra to fill your auric field. You do that 3 times, you're going to not be thinking. I guarantee that. The other thing is the avoiding the pain yet to come. You know what I do when I go to travel? I sit down with myself. Self, come here. I sit down and I go, what's anything that could happen on my trip? Let me just tell you a secret here. If you were going to have a trip that there's no issue whatsoever, nothing will come up. You'll go, I'm just taking a trip. Oh. But if there's something that is scheduled for you, the plane to crash, for you to get sick on the plane, for you to sit next to somebody and get shedded upon, whatever it is, if it comes up, when you ask yourself that, you need to experience it sitting here days before your trip and feel all those feelings to fruition. Because for something nefarious to happen to you, there has to be something in your soul that you're not paying attention to that wants to come up and out, wants to come up and be loved, become one with it, loved, right? And if you don't pay attention to yourself that way, those things are going to happen. That's how good people have bad things happen to them. Oh my God, she was so loving. How did she get run over by a Mack truck? This gal was like, she helped everybody. That's how. Oh my God, she got cancer. She's dying. How did that happen? Well, cancer is self-hate. So any emotion that you don't pay attention to from other experiences in the past, and they're in your soul, if you don't like the way they feel, if you hate the way they feel, and therefore you push them deep in your soul, that's your self-hatred. And that's when disease starts to come upon you, unless you clean yourself every day of blocked energy, locked up energy, right? And we've been trained oftentimes through our churches, that don't go near hatred, don't go near anger. Do you know, this is so true, that you cannot experience true love unless or until you experience true hatred. Because love and hate are the same energy, different sides of the coin. And I'm not saying perform hatred, because if you perform any emotion like hatred, anger, the denser emotions, it recedes back into the soul, and you're going to bring up the same kind of experience because you didn't resolve it. You didn't give it life. Life, we're trained like as humans, great life is becoming something. Become a doctor, become a PhD, become this, become that, CEO. These are traps in third dimension. There's not too many conscious CEOs. Oh, they're conscious of black magic, but not of life. So you got to just realize that energy, feeling, paying attention to yourself, you are your savior. It's up to you. It's all about you. And you are the greatest journey ever. Self-love is actually God love, because you're God in the body. We're a probe from our creator in a physical body. Guess why we come to planet Earth? This is a good one. We come to planet Earth, number one reason. Number one reason is, ding. What was that show? For experience. Because when we look at our world, and ML was starting to talk about this, prior to taking a body, we go, wow, especially new beings that want to experience where you can touch God physical. This is the only dimension you can do this. We can touch God in the body. Oh my God, that's a miracle. So in that, especially with your first lifetime, if that's the case, and sometimes other people, they had several lifetimes and they still want to experience things like, wow, look at that guy got run over by that big truck. That's interesting. I like to experience that. Whoa, look at that guy. Little things came out of that machine and made holes in his body. Whoa, wonder what that feels like. Yeah, you're in charge. You're in charge of what happens. That's why God gave us free will. Because you have free will to create your life any way you want it. But most of us don't know that. Most of us are at effect of this world that's really Maya, M-A-Y-A, illusion. The only thing that is real is divine love. That which you are. That's the only thing that's real. And that's underneath the thinking mind, the physical, biological meat body. It's in the energy. Do you know you start doing that and you do that with friends or whatever, and you progress into an enlightened state like that? You can have meetings in the ethers without your body and it'll be fully conscious. It's called conscious transcendence. It's available to you. You want it? Isn't that interesting? It's been a joy to share this with you. I did want to say one other thing. Was Jay was talking and bringing up the Jewish stuff there. Sanskrit is the oldest language on the planet. And the Vedas are written in Sanskrit. And the ancient seers that were early on when this planet was first formed by God, they saw that this could be a prisoner planet. You could get stuck here. Because for you to free yourself from the prisoner planet here, what you have to do is you have to be open-hearted even when the worst things happen. And so most people they fall short on that because it's hard to stay open when the beloved dies or whatever, or something crazy happens, right? So these ancient seers saw that and they came together and they created the Vedas, which was a language of light. It's a language of light, of energy. And in the creation of that, they gave us a path to be able to exit the rapture of this planet. Because, come on, folks, all the pain that's here, all the stuff like growing old, children dying. I mean, we know it all. What kind of planet is this, right? Wait a minute. Some people think that this is a possibility that this could be hell because it seduces you and then it betrays you, just like your body betrays you, especially when you get old. And so now that's not a bad thing, because that means that any of us and all of us that are super conscious of what's going on, I know that most of the audience here is super conscious, because we're super conscious on that. That's the reason why the exit is here. That's the reason why we are here to certainly return to the Father, return to the kingdom of heaven permanently. But we came here because of the light we are. And in that light we are actually assist everyone on the planet. Every time you do a life-giving deed, it goes through all of us and we expand. So just remember that. And Hebrew, by the way, is brother of Sanskrit. They're so close. It's just amazing because Hebrew is also a language of light. So sometime take a piece of paper or from a book that's written in Sanskrit or Hebrew and meditate on it, looking at it without blinking for 5, 10, 15 minutes, you may experience something really phenomenal. Like if you don't read Sanskrit, you'll know what's on the page and what it's saying, and or you'll see each letter open up and light comes out of it. It's pretty phenomenal. There's so much in the world of God, of true love. So I wish this for everyone. By the way, I'm resurrecting. I've had this for years, way back when I used to travel the country and do 2-hour sessions of an ancient healing art called Absushanka, which is Sanskrit for dispensing of the density of God through the porthole called the soul. And that's the whole game right there. So anyway, thank you. And I wanted to share this with you. And then we have somebody, Healing by Tuition, said, can you talk about the black magic they have us perform on our birthday, blowing out candles, singing, chanting, it ages us. Hey, you know what? Healing by Intuition, you're so right, because the Ascended Master that I was working with, he gave me a birthday party. This is about, 10 years in, but he gave me a birthday party. And he said, what's this thing blowing candles out? Fire is a deity. Fire is a deity. Love is hot. They turned it around. They made hell being hot. Hey, what happens when you come together in the lover and love is there? You get hot. Hey, what happens when you hear truth? It's getting hot in here. It's amazing. So heat, hot is a good thing. And look it up. Research it. Fire is a deity. All right. Did I finish my conversation on that? Or did I?
No, you did great. I just,
Okay.
We're at about an hour and a half, so
Oh my
we're going to
God.
wrap it up. But I want to continue this. Because this
hold on,
is,
ML. I just got it. What
yeah,
this gal put on there, and I was talking about fire candles. He said, when you blow out a candle, it's like blowing out your life. It's a black magic trait.
yeah,
Because it takes away.
that's right.
You know how we celebrate birthdays? So let's say you have 20 people at your birthday party, and you give each one of them a candle, or they bring a candle, either way. And you're sitting there, and if you want a cake, you can have a cake, and it's sitting there, but it doesn't have candles on it. They have the candle. And they, one by one, come in your gaze there, and they hold the candle with fire on it with their hand like this. And they say whatever they want to say to you. Beloved Christo, I wish for you in the celebration of your life, all your dreams come true, and whatever else they want to say. And with the fire coming, sometimes we see the flames start to go that way from the candle because the intention is so great, so loving. And each and every one does that. Isn't that amazing? So intuition, gal, Healing by Intuition, take that with you. It is so beautiful. Go ahead, ML.
ML, on that very note, you mentioned that it wasn't supposed to be the Star of David. It was supposed to be the menorah. The menorah is also the palm of the hand and all of your chakra systems going up. And your crown chakra is what's called the shamas. The shamas is the candle on the menorah that lights every other candle, and you never blow them out. You take the shamas and you light that, and then the shamas lights every other candle, and then every other candle lights every other candle. So it's life perpetuating life. And then the significance of it is that there's 8 days of Hanukkah, and then there's the 9, and 9 is the highest number in ancient numerology with Asia, in the Eastern world, but also it's the highest when it comes to numerology because you can't go beyond 9. Everything else is a derivative of that. So 8 days of Hanukkah, and it's also aligned with your chakra systems. So you're lighting fire to continue to go forth with more life, and you never blow them out. So
That's
it's
beautiful. I love how all these trinkets of wisdom come from all of us and this and that. I just want you to know I love you so much, ML. Thank you for everything. I love your audience. Thank you very much. CB's daughter, everybody there. It's just thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we're great. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Our shows are always transcending, and
Yes.
so that's what I love about it. It recharges us for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
So
if
thank you,
anybody has
guys.
any questions about what I brought out, feel free to email us. The right thing to
Oh,
do
yeah.
at protonmail.com or Americans in Action at Proton. Thank you very much. There it is.
Oh,
There you
and
go.
Christo, and by the way, when you talk about the energy work, you talk about the thing that stops the energy work is judgment. Well, what's Yom Kippur? It's all about judgment and stopping life
Mhm.
force energy. Therefore, you can see they take the Vedics, the esoteric true purity of essence of energy and the wisdom, and they construe it into something else to oppress the people, because if the people live in total allowance, Christo, in this wisdom we define love as allowance, meaning devoid of judgment, meaning no sin, impossibility, because you're allowing life force energy, then you're not going to have a Yom Kippur because you're in unconditional love. Therefore, you can see the infiltration from the ancient wisdom to keep people controlled. And when you talk about Yeshua ben Yosef, I am is the way, he's allowing energy devoid
That's
of
right.
judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. You said that. It's so true. Exactly. Right on the money.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Again, thank you so much. We
Oh,
appreciate you so much.
yeah. Oh, that thing I forgot is it always bugged me when I hear that people say, well, God will judge you. In my reality of God, our love, he doesn't judge at all. He doesn't do any of that
No,
stuff. That
he
is a
doesn't.
indoctrination to control you and make you less than.
That's right.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
ML.
There you
God
go.
bless you. We'll talk all night. We'll have to have an all-nighter
Yeah,
one time.
That'd be
we
fun.
may have to do that. We may have to have a
Yeah.
marathon night.
Then we'll go
Yeah.
really deep.
All right, divine ones.
We'll
Thank you,
see you
guys.
soon. Yes, we'll see you
Take
soon.
care. Yes.
God bless.
Take care.
We
So
love
be it.
you.
Love
So
you.
be it.
Love you.
Bye-bye.